Hey guys, let's get straight to the point. Today's video is going to be really casual because I just want to talk about the reasons why I canceled my order for the Sony ZV-E1 full frame camera. I have all my notes here because I have a lot of points, but I'm just going to talk about the major deal breakers or the major reasons. And I put them into categories, so I will try to show you guys even my notes. And let's get straight into it. I am a user of the Sony FX30 and the Sony A7IV and a BMPCC 4K camera. I do mainly dance videos and music videos. Those are my clients and friends project. And I use the Fujifilm X Pro 2 as my photo camera because of the color science and also the image quality coming out of Fuji cameras. So that is basically my background, and I try to use Sony cameras and also the BMPCC camera for videos mainly. So those two are my major background. Most of the reasons that I'm going to mention are most likely not going to apply to these cameras because these are my go-to cameras and these are the cameras I prefer over the Sony ZV-E1, the new full-frame camera from Sony. So the first category of reasons or deal breakers is the potential overheating issue. I placed an order or the pre-order right after Sony announced the ZVE1, literally after I watched the announcement. And then I started watching a lot of review videos, and there are a couple of reviewers who got the camera. I didn't get a camera. They got the camera and they tested the camera, showing that there will be a potential overheating issue even in a pretty normal kind of temperature range, like 25 degrees Celsius. That's pretty normal for a lot of environments, no matter if it's outdoor or indoor. If it's summer, it's even hotter. But they do run into a potential overheating issue, or they ran into the issue of only capable of recording about half an hour of 4K 24 frames per second. That's not good at all because if you are using the camera only even for just content creation and you take like footage or videos like here and there, not really a long take of a video, you will still eventually get into that issue if you just once in a blue moon where you want to record a longer video. And that is not good at all, because not that it might have happened to me when I'm filming or using the camera, but the potential, it's gonna be in my head and it's gonna be in my mind when I'm using the camera. That makes me worry, and that's not a good thing, especially when you're creating content. Not for clients, not even for clients. If you're doing it for clients, it's not gonna work. You will have to tell your clients that, oh, the camera will have potential overheating issue and we have to make sure that the temperature is optimum for the camera. That's really hard to sell to your client. So that is absolutely not a good thing. Again, your situation might be different. You might be just recording a minute or two here and there using the ZV-E1 and you might not run into that issue. But then for me, I just cannot accept that potential of overheating. Even for content creators, if you run into that issue once in a while, it's not a good thing. You might miss the moment. You might miss capturing that moment. So I don't know how they decide to have a camera that can overheat potentially like that. I would rather or much prefer having the 30-minute recording limit, just like I think on my X-T4 had it, and my older Canon cameras, I think the M50 had it too, with the 30 minutes record limit. That is actually better than the potential overheating issue because I know that there is a 30-minute limit. I know when to stop and start recording again, but I don't know when it's gonna overheat if I have the ZV-E1, so that's a lot worse than having the 30 minutes record limit. This will actually make me panic if I bring the camera or plan to bring the ZV-E1 on set for a client or a friend project. Do I need to like bring a fan out? Do I have to measure the temperature of the room like the whole time? If I'm outdoor, how am I gonna do that? So that's the biggest deal breaker so far. The second major deal breaker, or maybe not a deal breaker, depends on your situation, is the real cost of having a ZV-E1. It's a full frame camera. It has a 4K almost 4K to 4K sensor, so you don't have a Super 35 mode where you can use APS-C lenses, so you will have to use full frame lenses almost. Yes, you can use APS-C lenses with the clear image zoom, but let me remind you, that is still a digital zoom cropping into the image and digitally sharpening the image. So I know it looks good enough, but why? Like I just don't see the reason why you will have to go through that if you want to use APS-C lenses. So the real cost of owning full frame lenses are really high. For E-mount lenses, Sony native lenses, they are really expensive. I personally don't even own that many full frame Sony native E-mount lenses. I think I bought like one, the 35mm f1.8. That is still like what, $600 if I remember correctly. And other full frame lenses, I got it from other companies sending us to test out. Those lenses are expensive, even for third-party lenses. If you want to get a 24 to 70 f2.8 lenses, no matter if it's Tamron, that one is 28 to 75, I think. It's almost like $800 US, $1,000 Canadian. That's a lot of money. And plus the body itself of the ZV-E1, it's already really expensive. It's $2,200. That is a lot of money for a lot of people. People who usually create content on social media, they're looking for a camera that's around like $1,000. That is their max budget. I'm talking about maximum budget. I get asked a lot by my friends asking me which camera they should get if they want to step up their game and start using an actual camera for content creation. And everyone says they only have $1,000 max for the budget, and that is reasonable because think about it, a smartphone, an iPhone costs about $1,000, and this is a supercomputer in your pocket. No one is gonna buy a camera just to record video for social media or whoever that they're targeting, the vloggers, just because they want higher quality image, and they are not gonna spend $2,200 on the camera body and then $1,000 plus on lenses. So that's what, $3,000–$4,000 just to get the camera working. You cannot use the camera without a lens, so you have to add the lens in there. The cheapest lens is like what, a reasonable focal length, not talking about the zoom lens, like a 35-1.8, that's like $600 already. So that's almost $3,000. So that's not a good thing for casual content creators. I don't think they would spend that much money for also, if you want to accessorize your camera, let's say you want to have really stable footage, you want to get a gimbal, that will cost you another like $300–$400 or even more because of the weight of the setup right now. With full frame lenses, you can't really use a small gimbal. With my Sony FX30, I can still use the Zhiyun Crane M3, the small gimbal, and I have a zoom lens, a Sigma 18–50 f2.8 that is about 27 to 75mm equivalent full frame, and it's tiny. The setup is lightweight, tiny, and easy to carry. I can use a small gimbal, so I don't necessarily have to go full frame if I don't need those features. And if you're a beginner, you will not be able to tell the difference. Trust me. My clients, my friends, they can't tell if I'm using an APS-C camera or a full frame camera. They just think that the image looks different from the phone. That's why they like the image most of the time. And of course, your lighting, composition, color grading, storytelling, those are more important than just getting a full frame sensor by paying $2,200. So that's why I think it's gonna cost a lot more than a lot of people think if they want to get into like the kind of, it's not a beginner's camera, like the camera kind of quality if they want to create content. And another thing is I have used, or I owned, the Sony ZV-E10 before. We sold it. If the build quality is similar to the ZV-E10, it will be super plasticky compared to the FX30. I don't know yet because I have never seen the camera yet, but then based on the reviews, YouTube video reviews online, they said it's similar material, kind of like recycled plastic, and the body itself doesn't seem like it's made of like something as sturdy as the FX30, so correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I can see, it's really plasticky compared to the FX30 or the A7IV or even A7III or A7C. So I don't think they will give you that high quality kind of feeling. So it's gonna feel kind of like a toy, no offense. Yeah, oh, one last thing about the cost of the Sony ZV-E1 compared to the FX30. The screen resolution is lower than the FX30 when the price is way higher, body only. The FX30, it's $1,800, and then the Sony ZV-E1 is $2,200. I know this is an APS-C sensor. That one has the A7S3, FX3, FX6 sensor. Yes, but then like why? Like this camera is cheaper and it has a higher resolution screen. So why are they doing this? So that's a really, I don't know. I just don't know why they do that. The next category of reasons why I cancel my pre-order is the sensor. Yes, yes, it is an amazing sensor. It's absolutely amazing. Low megapixel, just like my BMP-CC 4K, always produce nicer video footage, more film-like and less digital, sharpened, things like that. So that's why I love that sensor. I'm sure I will love that sensor if I can use the camera without worrying about the potential issues that I mentioned. But another thing is, because it's a close to 4K to 4K kind of sensor, so you're not gonna have much room when you want to crop the image or reframe your image. So if you want to crop in and zoom in a little bit because your composition is a little bit off, if it's like slanted, you kind of want to correct the orientation of the video, then you will have to crop in a little bit, and that will impact the image quality. So that's not a good thing. And the next thing, I think I mentioned it earlier before already, is there's no Super 35 mode. So that's a bummer. You can't really use APS-C lenses. I personally is not going to use the clear image zoom if every time when I turn on the camera I have to like zoom into that 1.5 times crop to avoid the vignetting using APS-C lenses, and it's a digital sharpening and zoom. Correct me if I'm wrong. I am not going to use that if that's the case. And it has really good low light capability. Second native ISO 12,800, you know it. It's an FX3 sensor. So low light, it's gonna be way better than the FX30 or even the A7IV. But the thing is, the low light on the FX30 and A7IV, they're not bad. Especially FX30, yes, there is noise. I have to use noise reduction in DaVinci Resolve almost every time. I have that note saved in my power grade presets or my LUT. So basically it will apply that noise reduction every single time when I am color grading FX30 footage. It's not an issue. It's not a big issue. The noise is not that chroma, colorful kind of dancing noise. It's just really film grain kind of like noise. So I have no issue with the FX30 footage. A7IV, super clean. Never had to apply noise reduction on A7IV footage, and that's why I really don't think I need the 12,800. Even if you do, yes, of course, if you're a content creator, a vlogger, maybe you'll run into situation, or most likely you'll run into situations where you don't have enough light. Yes, of course, then yes, the 12,800 second native ISO is going to help a lot. But keep in mind, anything before the second native ISO, it's gonna be noisy. And I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind. If you are, again, if you're a vlogger, beginner, camera user, you're not really gonna understand that, like first base ISO, second base ISO. Even if you do, you will start running into problems if there are like bright spots in your frame. Let's say if you have lights behind you and you kind of still want exposure for your face, 12,800, the lights are going to blow out. So I don't think I would need that 12,800 ISO. It's a good thing to have, but I don't really need it. I don't think 2500 ISO on the FX30 is a problem. So that's another thing. Yes, no mechanical shutter at $2,200. Yes, it's a great camera. Please don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to tell you why it's not good for my purposes. Mechanical shutter. If they put one in, I might still get that camera because I can still take pictures without the potential of running into bending issues. If you don't know what bending issues are, they are basically if you're taking a photo, especially photos in a artificial lighting kind of environment, unless you have proper video lights like these guys, most of the artificial lights, let's say tungsten lights, like your light bulb at home, if it's LED especially, they will start to they flicker basically. And if you take a picture with electronic shutter, it basically scans the image from top to bottom, and the speed of that scanning, it's not gonna match the frequency of the lights, and you'll see like bars, like a bright bar, a dark one, a bright one. You'll see like stripes. So that will make your image completely unusable. So I really don't know why. So if you're getting the ZVE1, you can take pictures, no problem. But if you're in indoor with artificial lights, it's gonna cause like potential issues. If you're taking pictures mostly outdoor, that's totally fine. But you will still run into the jello effect if you're taking some photos of something that's moving like really quickly from side to side of your frame. If you're panning very quickly and you're taking photos, things are probably gonna be like slanted. That is why a mechanical shutter is really, really important if you have like photo taking features on the ZVE1. Like $2,200 without mechanical shutter, I don't know why. I just can't accept it. Anyway, as I said before, I use the Fujifilm X Pro 2 as my photo camera, so that's not really an issue for me because I'm recording with a camera that has no mechanical shutter anyway. The FX30 doesn't have it, so yeah, but keep that in mind. If you're gonna do photos and videos, ZVE1 might not be your first choice. Okay, the last category of reasons why I canceled the pre-order of the ZVE1 is the weird positioning. Basically, it's a conclusion. This camera is way too expensive for content creators who don't really need to focus on image quality or color grading of the footage. Yes, it records 10-bit 422, but that is only if you need that quality of image for color grading. After, for content creators like on social media like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, I don't think they're going to spend that much time color grading it. I thought this camera is supposed to be for faster turnaround time. They do have different modes in the camera. Let's say the cinematic mode, adding black bars and adding a tone curve, or even like a LUT onto the image within the camera. But that really limits the image quality. It kind of lowers the image quality. So why do you need 10-bit 422? Most people don't know what 10-bit 422 is. Only camera people who knows, people who color grade images know. So I think this is way too expensive for content creators. It has a lot of smart features, as I said before. It has the auto framing feature, and that is cool if you really want that dynamic like shot where the camera is kind of like it's following you in the frame without having someone to pan the camera. But that again is the digital zoom, so it will make your image look worse than using the entire frame. So keep that in mind. I'm not sure, I'm not going to use it. If I'm using it, I might as well just use the tracking feature in your video editing software. So that's that. And also it has the dynamic stabilization. I think that's the name of the stabilization. It's better than active stabilization, and it makes the camera a lot more stable if you're walking while you're filming. That's a good thing for content creators because a lot of time you'll be walking with the camera, and that saves you from having to set up a gimbal. Absolutely amazing, but I don't really encourage using that feature because if you look or watch the footage using the dynamic stabilization online on YouTube, if you focus on the part where there's like highlights, high contrast, let's say if it's like a fluorescent tube in a parking lot, if you focus on that part, you will see that when they use dynamic stabilization, that the light will start to have artifacts. It will be like shaky and it will start acting weird and looking like it's like the light itself, it's like moving and vibrating. So that's why that kind of stabilization, it's not the best. Even same thing with the what's that called, Catalyst Browse. That software, I use it only for emergency. If I don't have a gimbal and I really want to stabilize the image, yes, I will use it. But same thing with the high contrast part, it will show you the artifacts if you take a look at that. I'll try to show you some sample footage using Catalyst Browse, but that is the effect that I don't really like. Once you see it, you can't really unsee it anymore. So I'm sorry if I make you like focus on that part in this video, but that's a problem of that kind of stabilization. It's still there, so that's why I want to talk about it. And it also lacks a lot of professional features on the ZVE1. Yes, I know it's a casual camera for easier operation for people who don't have that much experience or they don't really want to learn how to operate a camera. But the thing is, if you want to use it for a bigger project, you can't really do it. The overheating issue and also the micro HDMI port, I had it on my A7 III. The port on my camera did not break, but the cable broke. So I thought the camera port, like the HDMI, micro HDMI port on my A7 IV was broken, like when I was literally filming a project, because the monitor shows like no signal, but the cable broke. So it's either the cable is going to break or the port is going to damage, and then you have to pay for the repair. So that's not a good thing. That's why I don't know why they put in a micro HDMI port when you're paying that much money. Like, I think they can kind of fit a regular HDMI port in there, but correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I've never used the camera. Maybe they just can't fit a full-size HDMI in there. If you are a beginner content creator, or if you want to jump from a smartphone kind of image quality to a camera, like a mirrorless camera kind of quality, I highly recommend you to get the ZV-E1. It's much, much, much cheaper, and it's a lot better than your phone image already. So that, it's also an easy camera to use, and it's not going to cost you so much. You don't have to put in like $3,000 just to get a camera that you think will make your content better. I don't know, maybe it will. But then the ZV-E1, absolutely amazing. It's even smaller and it's super easy to use. I know the color bit depth, it's only 8-bit 420. But again, I used that camera before. Everyone loves the image coming out of the camera. I color graded in like DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut Pro. No one had any issues with that. So regular people not really into camera stuff or image quality kind of things, they will not notice. So A7 III, I used it for like multiple projects. People love the image quality. Also 420 8-bit. So I didn't have any problem with that. And also, if you are using the ZVE10 to create content, even if you use the ZVE1, a lot of times people will just put like a Instagram filter on top of your image. So yeah, that's 10-bit, 8-bit. It's not going to be that big of an issue. And I forgot to mention, if you are getting the ZVE1, the full frame one, the filters like ND filters, Pro Mist filters, they're going to be more expensive because full frame lenses usually have a bigger filter thread. So you are potentially going to spend more money on filters. Another thing that really doesn't make too much sense to me is if you want to start getting into color grading videos, you will most likely have to buy DaVinci Resolve because that's the industry standard software for color grading. Yes, you can color grade using Final Cut Pro, Adobe Premiere Pro, they work too. But then if you really want to do color grading, most likely you will have to buy DaVinci Resolve, and that's another couple of $100 you have to spend if you want to use the ZVE1 as your camera. So if you want to get super serious about that, you can buy the BMP-CC 4K. It's super cheap. It comes with the software. So I learned most of my color grading because of that camera. So that's my recommendation. If you want to get a little bit more serious about videography and you want to do projects for friends, family, clients, I think the FX30 is the right choice if you're just starting, because the APS-C sensor, there's no problem. APS-C lenses, they're cheaper, easier to use on a gimbal. So the autofocus is almost the same. I never complain on the autofocus on the A7 III since the A7 III. So I'm not gonna complain with the FX30 autofocus. Yes, the ZVE1 has better autofocus, same thing as the A7R5, where I think the most impressive thing is like when you turn around, or your subject turn around and it will still sense or pick up the head or the full body of the person and keep that in focus. But that is a really niche situation. I film multiple dance videos like a month and I've never run into like yes, sometimes it will drift on to the wrong subject, but it's not like a huge problem. So autofocus, no problem on the FX30 compared to the ZVE1 or the A7R5. If you really want to get into full frame, yes, you can consider getting the A7 III or A7C because they're cheaper now. You can get them secondhand, and I think that's a good start if you really want to get into that full frame look. But for me, I don't really care. The project that I love the most are filmed by the BMP-CC 4K, which has the smallest sensors among all my cameras. It has a micro four thirds sensor, but yet I love the image quality coming out of that camera. And it's not about blurring out your background or like just having that 3D pop-off kind of cutout on your subject. I don't like that look anyway. I stop down my lens whenever I can, just to make sure that it doesn't look like, oh, it's like a cut and paste of your subject onto the background, or you can't even tell what's in the background when you are trying to tell a story. Yes, for some storytelling, blurring out the background is great. If the background doesn't look nice, blur it out by all means, but it's not everything. And if you are planning to take photos with the camera, even if you just do like 10% of photo taking, or if you're planning to take 10% or more photos using the camera, get a camera with mechanical shutter. Don't get anything without the mechanical shutter. You will get frustrated if you see the bending issues and the jello effect when you're taking photos with just electronic shutter. So my conclusion is, if you are new to cameras, the ZVE1 is not a good choice. I'm just going to say that because it's going to be hard for you to use even with all the artificial intelligent features. If you are more experienced, you probably understand most of the reasons I talked about earlier during this video. So that's why I canceled my pre-order. And at the end of the day, storytelling, lighting, composition, audio are much more important if you want to start taking serious about videography or filmmaking. So for experienced users, maybe consider getting the FX30, or if you really want that full frame and low light capability, you love the sensor on the FX3, save up for the FX3 or just rent it. So those are my suggestions. For content creators on social media, the videos are viral most likely not because of the image quality. Some people actually like the authentic smartphone camera look. So storytelling is still the most important. Content is still the most important. The ZVE1, at least to me, please don't get me wrong, it's a great camera. It's an amazing camera. That's why I put down a deposit for the pre-order, but I still have to cancel it because I think it is too expensive for what it does. And I have to worry about a lot when I am using it for different uses, casual or professional use especially. So that's why I canceled my pre-order. Again, please correct me if I said anything wrong about the camera. If you have different point of view or perspective, please let me know. If you have any other comments or questions, let me know in the comment section below. I would really appreciate your feedback because I just want to casually talk about this topic because a lot of people got really excited about the new cameras. Yes, I get excited about new cameras, and especially when you see like 50 new review videos being uploaded at the same time, you'll be like overwhelmed by the information, and I got overwhelmed by the information, and that's why I put in the pre-order, but then I canceled it. Let me know if you are ordering the ZVE1 or if you have any other cameras that you think it's comparable to the ZVE1 or the FX30 or A7IV BMPCC cameras. Let me know down in the comment section below. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.